Hey guys, welcome to week number 3 of the WildStar. Well, is it week number 3?
I
cut myself off.
It's week number 3.
Yeah. We're gonna pretend that pilot isn't. That's episode 0.
Yeah. I wasn't on the pilot, so
it didn't count. Of course. I'm David Bass, senior community manager for WildStar. With me this week, I've got Hugh Shelton, our class lead, and Mark Matzenbacher, one of our class designers, and we are here to showcase the Spellslinger.
Yes, we
one
are.
of the most popular classes for WildStar by far.
It's been one of our most popular classes through all of our closed beta tests.
It has, indeed. Why do you think that is? Why do you think people really like the Spellslinger?
I think it's got to be the run and gun, the dual pistols, the cowboy type of attitude.
I think everyone just really wants to be Mal Reynolds, is really what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really kind of speaks to the kind of theme of WildStar, the kind of sci-fi with a little bit of the Western twang to it. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. So we are here today. We are going to show you guys some Spellslinger gameplay. We're going to play through the game, show off some of the newest changes to the Spellslinger in our winter beta, which is coming up in December, and answer some of your questions. So first off, a little bit of business before we get to that. For those of you who didn't get to see the class drop this week, this was week 3 of our class drops of 6. And so the Spellslinger is up on our website. If you didn't get a chance to see it, head over to wildstaronline.com. You can head up. You can see it right now. Head over there. You can scroll through the Spellslinger page, see the dev speak, which we'll show here in a little bit, see some of the abilities they have, the different ways to build your character, learn a little bit about the lore of the Spellslinger, and really overall just kind of get up to speed on the Spellslinger. We also have the Warrior and the Esper up there. Both of those were revealed in previous weeks. And then we'll have 3 more of those coming up pretty soon. I think we only have one more class after the Spellslinger before we got to get to some new stuff, yeah?
Yeah, there's just the Stalker to go, which we've shown off a little bit before. I'm looking forward to getting more in depth on it. But yeah, there's 2 more that people are really looking forward to.
So that'll be coming up pretty soon. And also for the Spellslinger, we also have the Reddit AMA, which we did on Thursday. I believe you guys handled that specifically.
We were there in our test lab on
so,
Thursday.
Yeah, if you didn't get a chance to see that, head over to the WildStar subreddit, and you can scroll through the questions, read all the answers we had. And there were actually a couple of really good questions on the Reddit during the AMA that we're going to kind of readdress here during the live stream so we can show it in game.
Yeah, there are a lot of topics that people had questions about, and we'll cover all of that stuff, like the resource mechanic, like sigils, that sort of
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So check out the Reddit AMA. We'll also have the archive of the AMA up on our website sometime in the near future, as well as the archive of this stream. So if you're watching this weeks from now, hi. Thanks for joining us a couple weeks late. In addition to that, let's see, what else do I have on my list here? I want to apologize to all of the Doctor Who fans out there. I know we're streaming right in the middle of Doctor Who Day of the Doctor. I know personally I'm very upset that I'm not watching it. I've got a stream over here of the episode that I'm going to watch and just not pay attention the rest of the show.
It's not any of the monitors that
we're just gonna sit here and watch the episode. And then in addition to that, I want to thank everybody who took a break from playing the Elder Scrolls beta this weekend to join us for our live stream. Awkward pause.
Awkward.
Okay, last thing before we get into the game, I just want to go over some beta notes real quick because there's a lot of questions that are always coming up about beta. First of all, no, we're not giving away any beta keys in the Twitch chat this week. You're going to see people probably right at this very moment who are claiming that we're giving away keys in chat. Yep, there we go. I'm seeing some nods from our people monitoring chat. People are claiming right now that they're winning beta keys in chat. That's a lie. They're lying to you, and they're lying to themselves. Don't fall for it. Don't be gullible. We're not giving away keys in chat. We're also not giving away keys from other websites right now. There's no beta key giveaways going on. There are no beta key contests going on. Anything you're seeing anywhere is most likely a scam. So really be careful for that. Don't give anyone your personal info. Don't sign up for any websites that are claiming to have keys. When we do have official giveaways, and we will have those are going to be on official websites. We will tweet them out. We'll point them to you through Facebook, through our website. So look to our official sources to let you know when those giveaways are happening.
I have a note on that. I have a note on that whole thing. Is that so earlier this week, I went to a website, a Twitch stream actually, where there was somebody streaming saying that they were giving away beta keys. And you might have a hint that it's not actually real because they have 60 people watching it. They've actually written in MS Paint free beta keys.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to get beta keys from
And if you're the one doing that, you're just going to get banned. So don't waste your time. It's really not worth the effort.
Don't waste your Twitch account.
Like if you want to get followers, like there's a better way to do that, and that's just to put on a good show, like we're trying.
Yeah, be better.
Yeah. So I think that's it for the last thing for the beta notes are that we've got the WildStar Winter Beta Survey that we really want everybody to fill out. If you signed up for beta, great. If you haven't signed up for beta, go do that on our website. But either way, go to this SurveyMonkey survey that we were sending around. Fill out this survey. It gets us a lot of good information that we're looking for, like demographic-wise, information about what kind of computers people are using, what kinds of things are interested in MMOs. The survey is really important for us, and so anyone who fills out that survey is definitely getting priority for invites. Even if you've signed up before, you don't have to sign up for beta again, but we do want to encourage you to fill out that survey with accurate information. We're going to be pulling people from that list first for betas because that proves to us that these people are engaged and are still really interested in that.
That list has worked out really well for us so far.
And so we're definitely going to be looking to that list first. So we'll have that. I believe that's in the show notes at the bottom of the Twitch page if you're watching from Twitch. So go there, click on that link, fill out that survey. Only fill it out once. You don't need to fill it out 30 times. But that'll definitely help us out, and it'll help you out too. I think that's it. Should we get to the game?
I think we should. I
Cool.
think we should show off.
So before we switch over to the game, we're going to show off this week's dev speak. Oh, it looks like we're already in the game. Well, let's show off this week's dev speak anyway for the Spellslinger, kind of give you a little brief of it, and then we'll jump into the game. So we'll be back in a couple seconds.
Welcome to WildStar. This is DevSpeak. Ooh, this disclaimer has a hint of cranberry and just a flutter of nutty aged cheddar. So it's time to talk about WildStar's interdimensional magic space cowboy, or Spellslinger for short. Spellslingers are highly mobile, ranged assassins that use dual blasters and void magic to skirt danger, hurt some folk, and shoot their friends in the face. With heals. Basically, he's the Nightcrawler in a cowboy hat. Now, Spellslingers use sigils, blasters, light armor, and portals to another dimension. 8th or 9th, maybe. 8th or 9th dimension. Probably. The Void lets him teleport around, switch places with enemies. They can even hide out in there for a bit. Now, they also have powers in the real world, like sigils. Spellslingers use sigils to throw bad guys around, aim heals at their buddies, or blast things with fire and stuff. Which brings me to their primary weapon, dual blasters. They're perfect for running and gunning, or charging up and ripping through hide. Now all this and his light armor make the Spellslinger the most nimble, slippery sumbitch this side of the OK Corral. Teleport, dash, run and gun, swap, bamf! And of course, limited action set lets you decide if you're going to roll more guns blazing damage or friendly fire heals. Maybe favor mobility. Or precision nukes. Maybe you like CC. Either way, you're going to love saddling up with a Spellslinger. So take a shot at our website for more info on classes. And get a little social with your media. The devs are listening.
And we're back, and now we're in game for real. So first of all, before we even get into anything, I mean, come on, let's look at this character for a sec. What did you make here, Mark?
All right, I got a pink Chua with some fluffy ears, a little bit of a mohawk, and a giant handlebar stash.
That looks so good.
It looks so good. I wore this shirt in honor of that Chua.
A little bit of salmon.
Look at that.
Also, the character's name is Adorbs.
Obviously, Adorbs with a Z or with an S?
With a Z.
Okay, yeah, of course. So so we're here in White Vale, which is a mid-level zone. We actually showed a different section of White Vale during PAX, Gamescom, and New York Comic Con, which was the Squirg zombie area people might have seen in some videos.
It was a lot of fun to show off. People were having a ton of fun doing PvP against one another.
Yeah. This is one of the first areas really where the two factions kind of converge, and there's just tons of open world PvP happening here if you're on a PvP server or if everybody's flagged themselves for it. So where we are right now is a fortress or a little Dominion place called Pale Rock Post, which used to be an Exile base, and the Dominion came in and just kind of wiped them out, kicked them out of there. And so you'll see there's a lot of Dominion stuff getting set up here, but there's also kind of some wreckage from Exiles. Little leftovers, things that when they got pushed out.
Some ruins, some smoke and fire.
Yeah, and so the Exiles still have a couple more bases set up further into the zone, and so we're actually going to go through a couple quests that push, that kind of attack the Exiles and push our way through towards their base. And so we're heading out to White Vale. You can see White Vale, for the most of White Vale, is a very snowy zone, and so it's a very pretty area. Do you want to talk, Mark, a little bit about the Spellslinger's surge, about their resource mechanics? Because that's changed a little bit.
I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, I'll go ahead
Yeah,
and
go
talk
for it.
about it. So, as Mark gets into this, he'll start fighting, and you'll see him use that button all the way on the left, that R button. That's his innate ability. And what that's called is Spell Surge. And basically, Spell Surge, once that is activated, he's able to turn it on and off. And when it is activated, it drains his spell power. That's the meter in the middle of the screen above his focus point.
That
and his
orange
health bar.
circle.
Yeah, and you
orange
can turn it off as well to kind of a little bit of micro if you're a little bit more skilled like me.
And so we didn't used to have the capability for players to turn it on and off. Before, players would just drain their spell power when they used their abilities up at the start of a fight. And this really led them to being a burst up front, but then they didn't have much control of their burst during a fight. So we decided that we wanted to give Spellslingers more control, and we wanted them to decide, like, oh, maybe I don't want to use it at the start, maybe I want to wait till the creature is vulnerable. And this works for healing too, where it's not just dealing damage, but it increases the power of your heals. And it also increases the lengths of some of your CCs.
And so that recharges over time.
It's
Just
something
on
that,
its own?
your attacks aren't regenerating it unless you tier them up or use the amp system, but normally spell power just regenerates on its own over time.
And so one of the things I want to talk about specifically is what abilities you're using, Mark. You've built your bar here.
Right, yeah, I have a little bit more of a kind of traditional ranged nuke build. This is kind of more physical based, as the Spellslinger has some access to physical damage and magic damage. So I have abilities like Charge Shot, which is a big charge nuke, Wild Barrage, which is kind of what I'm using here. It's channeled over time. You know, just go guns blazing, deals a lot of damage. And so what this build is really strong for, which you can see here as I'll do it, is has a really long range. I can do a lot of damage to creatures as they're kind of walking over to me.
So what did you just do there? True Shot, it looked like you casted it, but then you could cast it a couple more times.
Yeah, why don't I go ahead and touch on
Yeah,
that
go
while,
for
he,
it.
while he focuses on playing. So True
Yeah,
Shot
so
is
it's
actually
gonna-
an ability that he has to stand still to cast, and it's something that it has a pretty long cast time. So it's really good for pulling mobs, because as they're running at you, you're able to stand still and use that ability. We've talked about the Spellslinger's mobility, but we give them a couple of options for those longer cast times that are stationary for when they have a chance in the fight or to pull mobs. And I think Mark also touched on something earlier. He was talking about how this is more of a physical build, and that's players might not realize that the Spellslinger is kind of a bit of an elementalist. They have the ability to do things that cast giant fireballs, cast giant frostbolts, and we'll probably see more of that as he gets into some of the content later on.
Right. One of the things I want to address here is that we got a couple questions during the AMA about the difference between, we showed the Esper last week, showing the Spellslinger this week, two ranged classes, and the question kind of was, you know, what's the difference there? Like, what's the difference between their ability loadouts, between the options that they each have? Like, why would you play one over the other? And so one of the things I wanted to talk about were the differences in the telegraphs that are available to each one.
Yep, and we have a great infographic to show that off.
Yeah, so the Esper, do we want to show first? There we go.
So here's the Esper, and you can see this kind of shows off their different abilities. This is their free-form targeting attacks. These are, you use these and they fire down whatever line that is. And you can see their range kind of ends at that 30-meter mark. They've got some big wide cones. They've got some big AoEs. They've got a little bit of more oddball shapes associated with the Esper.
And so the Esper's got kind of a lot of options between long range, short range.
Yes.
Pretty cool. So why don't we switch over to the Spellslinger?
And so here's the Spellslinger, and you can see that their range extends quite a bit further than the Espers for some of their abilities. And those ones that are going further are stationary abilities that you have to hold still to cast. But you also notice that their range in general is a little bit tighter. The cones are a little bit smaller. It's more down the pike kind of. So not only do these ranges kind of show the difference between the shapes of the telegraphs, but it kind of gives you a key into what the two different classes are. So the Esper has a lot of different CCs and pets type things, whereas the Spellslinger has more direct damage over time. They're more about assassinating their targets than doing those different types of utility moves.
You just totally whiffed
Totally
that shot.
whiffed. I
That was
trying to look- I was
amazing.
trying to look cool.
He's trying to show off the camera really nicely.
That was amazing. And so the Spellslinger, you saw in the graphic that they've got they have the longest range of the classes, right? Is that True Shot that's using that?
That is True Shot.
You were
yeah.
mentioning to me offline that they can actually tier that up to
Yep.
make it even longer.
Yeah, through our ability tiering system, which is a system that we have where you can make certain abilities stronger than other abilities by spending a limited amount of points on them, you're able to make that be even longer than it is right now.
Awesome. So we're working our way through here. So you're fighting an Exile guy right now that looks like he's a Stalker, actually, right? That's an
He's
NPC Stalker.
Yeah, he's got some moves. They're not quite the same moves
Sure.
that our Stalkers have, but it's similar type of stuff.
One cool ability I have I'm about to use here in a second, it's Assassinate. It's also a rapid tap. It does increase damage to enemies when they are low health, so it's kind of like a, finish them off type ability.
Like a
Like an Assassinate.
Mortal Kombat style. Finish him.
I did mention assassin. He's kind of an assassin earlier on, and that ability really is.
Well,
the key
between
for
that
it.
and the sniper style,
Yeah.
like long-range shots, it seems like they got a lot of different variety there for how they want to approach these fights. So we're going to swap out the build here a little bit.
The build here. I'm going to go for a little bit more of a magic-centered build.
Okay.
It's a little bit more of a kind of like a sustained damage rather than kind of nuking from afar. So
And while you're doing this, I want to ask a question up on the stream from someone on Twitter. We're going to pop it over on the stream. But you can ask your questions on Twitter by using hashtag WSLive. You can also ask in the Twitch chat, so feel free to put those anywhere you want. But Repsedge wants to know, for spells that have effects like fireballs, like ranged casts, does the damage actually happen when you fire it off, or when the cast time's done, or when the animation actually hits the enemy?
So if there's a missile projectile associated with it, the damage is going to be done once that missile hits the target.
So there is a travel time there.
So we have some abilities where they hit instantly, and we have some abilities where it waits till the projectile lands. And we have control over how fast those projectiles go. So if we want something to be really snappy, we can make the missile fly super fast. If we want it to be instant, it could be instant.
Cool.
And if you want something to kind of loft, we have some abilities like that on another class.
So what did you just add to your bar? You said you added some more magic focus abilities.
So I've taken one ability, for example, is Arcane Missiles.
Okay.
This is a channeled. If there are multiple enemies in front of you, the missiles will kind of be split amongst them and kind of do damage equally. If you only have one enemy in front of you, all of those missiles will kind of be centered in one big missile towards that enemy. Also have abilities like Ignite, it's a damage over time. Flame Burst is like a proc. If I crit, I can get another shot off that does a big spike of fire damage.
And so this build that he has right now, it's fairly mobile. Magic missiles, he's going to have to stand still as he's firing it off, but his other abilities, he's able to move around.
Wow, look at all these Chumpacabras you're killing.
He's also got a root on his bar that's going to hold them in place.
Yes, I do. Ooh,
Whoa.
So he'll be able to move around
totally
and kite.
puked on me.
So those little guys
So
are
you're
all over
attacking.
him.
Oh god, watch out! Oh no!
Oh, you just made somebody wake up.
I thought that was a rock there. I didn't even notice. That was awesome. So you just you've killed these
I don't
chompies,
know.
but then
Oh, he's
attracted this
pulling some
giant.
more. You better
Whoa,
peace
man,
out.
you're just
I'd
running
say
into
peace
everything.
out.
Oh, you've been slowed.
I'm gonna have to check a little deuce here and come back for vengeance.
We were doing so good in rehearsal.
Yeah, well,
You know what?
And
It's
now-
not that bad. He made it out with
You
his
did
skin.
survive. And so, in terms of, let's talk about the travel abilities a little bit, because you got a couple ways to escape as a Spellslinger. You were gating before, which you were using as a stun.
Right.
But you can also use that to get out of combat, too,
Yes.
right?
Very handy in PvP when you're trying to run away from people.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he has too much mobility on his bar right
yeah,
now.
I've taken
but
for something that's a little bit different.
I'll call out the different abilities that he has. So he has Gate,
Sure.
which is that forward stun. He has Void Slip, which is going to move him into another dimension almost, where no other enemies can see him unless they're also in the
I want a
void.
piece of this guy.
He has an ability called it's going to make a big AoE around him that increases his speed.
You totally
totally
blanked on the name
that
there.
one.
That's
I
fine.
did. It's called Void Pact. Now I remember. But basically, it's going to increase the speed for him and his allies that are close by, which no other class really
you
have
just-
the ability to that.
You just
to
got
do that.
tethered there. This is actually a good example. We haven't shown tether,
Yeah.
but we've talked about it a little bit. So you
Yeah.
see that line? That was actually preventing him from
He
going
would not have
outside
been
of the
able to
little
get away
circle.
from there.
But
Yeah.
I killed it with some good aim, and
Nice job.
dude trying to ambush me is just gonna get owned.
Let's grab another question from the channel. This is from the Twitch chat. Fenrler. You know, you got to have more vowels in your names, guys. Come on. Fenler wants to know, does the Spellslinger have higher DPS because they have light armor than, say, a medium armor class?
In general, yeah. Because they have that lower survivability, they're able to dish out more damage. It's kind of the way that they counter those heavier classes.
Awesome.
It ends up kind of being pretty even.
Yeah, we want it to be even in terms of kill times versus each other. So like a Spellslinger versus a medium armor class, the kill time should still be generally around the same time.
Right.
It's just that the Spellslinger is able to do more damage in a shorter period of time.
Cool. And the medium and heavy armor can maybe, you know, pull a couple more creatures and kill more of them faster.
And our classes that have heavy armor, they have options, stances that increase their damage while reducing their mitigation.
Yeah. Actually, a related question that we have on chat right now is from Mitjil. Mitgel, who wants to know, so the Spellslinger has light armor. Do they share gear with the Esper? Or is there overlap there?
There's definitely overlap for this regular stuff that you're going to find through leveling. They're both wearing light armor, so they're both going to be looking for that. Their weapons are different, so you're never going to be rolling on the same weapons as a Spellslinger and an Esper. And also the primary attributes that you're looking for are going to be different. So as an Esper, you're going to be wanting Moxie, which is going to increase your assault power, and you're going to be wanting Insight, which is going to increase your support power. Whereas on a Spellslinger, you're going to be looking after Finesse for your assault power. Both healers are going to be wanting Insight, though.
And so you've got primary stats that are different for each of them. And so if you're just building straight for your primary attributes, you have different gear that you're looking for. But each of those stats, if I understand it correctly, they still have something that they do for you. So you definitely want those stats too.
That's right. So all the attributes are useful to all the classes. So, for example, the Spellslinger might be getting critical strike from his Moxie stat, even though he's not getting assault power from it. But in general, you're going to want those assault power stats more than those secondary ones.
Cool. So what are you fighting here? You're fighting a Jirok.
Yes, I am.
So these guys we saw over in, I think they're in Daradoon, right?
Yeah, he's a little bit tougher than most.
I
went too far.
Yeah, we know right now. This is we're using our beta build right now. Leash ranges are a little tight right now.
Jabbits, bye-bye.
Why? Oh.
One thing
And you
in
just unlocked a
general.
challenge for that
Challenge, kill some little.
too. You just got
creatures.
rewarded for killing random
That's
pests.
sad.
So yeah, you've got a challenge now, but you're not even going to try. You just killed them, and you're just going to ignore the reward it's trying to give you.
For your sake.
I mean, I
won't
appreciate
go
it.
for him.
Let's while you're pulling these guys. Oh, what are these? Is that a female Granok I see?
I believe it is.
I can't see, but pretty sure that's also just a random NPC of
Yeah,
some type.
I don't know what that was.
I don't know what that was.
Jeez,
That was
what
weird.
weapons were those?
But let's grab another question from chat.
Ooh.
Wow, way to walk right into that landmine.
I totally didn't
Be
see it.
careful.
So, question from chat from Epic Zors, who wants to know to what extent can you adjust the Spellslinger's mobility through amps and through their build? And can you also reduce cooldowns on their skills or increase their movement speed?
So we do have some amps that are going to reduce your cooldowns. We do have some amps that are going to increase your movement speed by a small amount. But besides that, your action set is going to be the main way that you're going to give yourself more mobility.
Okay.
And that's through the abilities that I was talking about before. Void Pack, group AoE speed buff, Gate, which is going to dash you forward, and those are your ways of moving around, and you can tier them up to reduce their cooldowns, to increase the range that they take you, that sort of a thing.
Cool. So after you're finished with this guy, I think we should head over and meet up with a friend.
Yes, we
Does that sound like a good idea? All right,
can
so
do
we're going to
that.
head over here and see if we can meet up with Beeps.
I think- I
Oh,
think-
look, there he is.
Friend is a loose term for what's about to
Yeah,
happen
we'll
here.
see if we're friends.
So
after
here's
this.
Beeps. This is Nick Roth, our systems designer, and he is actually content systems design, I should
Yes.
say. But these guys are actually going to duel. Beeps brought with him an Esper, and we've got a lot of questions about Esper versus Spellslinger. So we figured, you know what? What's the best way to answer that?
Yeah.
A duel.
I'm gonna try and fight him. And to be fair, I'll say that Spellslinger is probably my third string class, so we'll see if I win this.
Yeah. So
And
what
also,
we're
to
gonna
be fair, there's a lot of different setups that you can have for both a Spellslinger and an Esper, so this is really only going to show a very small microcosm of the battle between the two of them.
Yeah, I'm
So
actually gonna switch.
what we're
up
going
my
to do here
build
is I'm going to have Mark. I'm going to have you walk through your thoughts here on what you're building. You're going to walk us through the build you're making, knowing that you're going to go up against an Esper, why you're building things the way you are. We'll walk through that, and then we'll go and do the duel, see what happens, and then maybe adjust the build based off what we saw, and maybe do it again.
Yeah, if I lose horribly,
If you lose,
then we
and if
need
you
some
win,
change.
then we actually have a trophy for you here. No, we don't. We don't have a trophy.
Why gotta get my hopes up? It's no good.
We
So-
we do have trophies back in the office.
That's true.
Well, that was the trophy that we got for destroying some content that other people couldn't do.
So why don't you tell us what you're building here?
All right, so I'm going for the Esper's a little bit more stationary, so I'm going for a little bit more mobility. I'm going to try and just be keeping out of his attacks as much as possible.
Okay.
I also have Assassinate. I took Assassinate back on my bar
Mm-hmm.
to hope to try and finish him off when he is low health. I have my Flame Burst for some proc stun, and I'm also going to pick up
A
handy
secret weapon.
dandy
We're not going to talk
little
about this because we don't want him to hear us.
We don't
'cause
want Nick
he
to
can
know
hear
what
us
we're doing.
right now, and
He
we
can
don't
hear.
want
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to pick up a little something extra.
All right. So are you ready to go?
Let me make sure I have
Wait.
tiers.
So you're tiering up your abilities, which gives them extra damage. We're not at a level where we can do any of those major tiers, so you're
Right,
not going to get special effects off of them, but you definitely are going to get more damage out of it.
Yes,
Yeah,
we are
those-
real close.
Those start coming
so
unlocked
All
at
right,
level
so we're going to challenge him to a
25.
duel.
Let's do this.
All right,
See
there's a
little
pretty duel flag. Here we go. Ready?
Count
4,
down.
3, 2, 1.
All
Here we
right,
go.
so Mark's going to start off with a Knight, which is one of your best damaging abilities over time. He stuns him. He's got to watch out for that Geist, which is that Geist that's out from the Esper is actually taunting him, reducing the amount of damage that he's doing to the Esper.
It looks like you got Nick's shields down before he got yours down, so that's a good start.
Good. And he's also, since Mark's build is pretty mobile, he's able to move out of these telekinetic storms that Nick is throwing down.
That's the one with the swords flying down from the sky.
That's one of his finisher abilities.
That
So
one
Nick
right there,
just
yeah.
used his innate ability, which means he's not going to be taking any damage. He's going to be generating a lot of psi points.
Oh, I see his shields are regenerating right there.
He's firing it off.
Very solid.
It's getting pretty close. He got his shields back, and so now we're hoping that that Mark.
Oh,
can finish
you're
him
pretty
off with
low, but
Assassinate,
so is
but
he.
It's not quite as low as we'd like.
Uh-oh. Oh, you're sitting in the telegraph.
Getting too close.
This is getting pretty close. Can you fire off Assassinate in time?
Oh, it's close. Can you finish him?
This is so close.
Who won?
He won.
Oh,
it looks like Nick won.
Man.
that
Wow.
was
Super
that
close.
was,
Okay. So, good job, guys.
I
Good
think
job.
You did a good try, but
Yeah,
I think we should go again.
So, yeah, let's try that one more time. And this time, you can change up your bar based on what you saw him bring to the table. And obviously,
Yeah,
Nick can
let's
change up
see.
his bar.
What am I going to do here? I am going to take...
And while you're setting this up, why don't we take another question from the stream?
Sure thing.
I can't read what's there, unfortunately. Can someone unhighlight the thing for me, Mr. Chris? I can't see the URL.
We're having technical difficulties in our Google document.
It's all cool. Something, 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 lower DPS, something, something.
Ah.
There we go. Okay, so question from Twitter. Chobotong wants to know, given their ability to kite, do Spellslingers tend to suffer from lower DPS compared to the Espers that have static nukes?
So that's kind of going to depend on your limited action set. So if you are building yourself around full mobility, you're not really taking any of those stationary abilities, your DPS is going to be a bit lower than somebody who's using those stationary abilities.
Okay.
We kind of balance the entire game based off all the variables that you could think of. Like if an ability can be used on the move, is there a cast time? What's the length of the GCD? We kind of assign point values to all of those things, and then we put that into this big Excel sheet that we use to balance the game. And then as players give us feedback, we kind of reevaluate how we value those different effects.
And so you brought up
the
Excel.
math isn't always right.
You brought up Excel spreadsheets, and so I just want to say, like, a lot of times, I know I made this mistake before I got in the industry, but like people think of game design and they're like, oh yeah, I'm in the game, I'm like making stuff all the time. But for someone who's into like class balancing or like itemization of the game, economy or class design, there's a lot of numbers and formulas and spreadsheeting.
Absolutely.
I always walk in your office and you guys are just like staring at spreadsheets,
Yeah.
and you put in numbers and it just trickles down across everything.
And then, so it's kind of
That's
fun.
because we wait till everybody to leave, and then we start
and then you guys
PvPing,
play.
yeah.
No, it's fun though that we get to put all those numbers in the sheet. We get to put them all in the game, and we get to see how it works out, and we get to keep going back and forth.
Yeah.
It's actually really satisfying.
And it's interesting because there's that balancing aspect of you guys put all the numbers in the sheet, but then like we start up beta and I see all of you guys grouping up and hopping into battlegrounds to fight and see how those classes actually play in the live game. Because it's not just, I mean, you can stare at numbers and say, yeah, these are all balanced on paper, but it's really about how it feels once you get into the game, right?
All right, are we ready for
Yeah.
round
So
two
do you want
here?
to? Are you going to tell us what you did, or do you want to keep it a secret from Nick?
I'm going to keep it a little bit of a
Okay.
secret. All right, let's get this going.
So we're going to go ahead and duel. We'll see how Nick adjusted his build, and we'll see how you adjusted your build, and then we'll kind of talk about it afterwards. All right, here we go.
with that ignite.
I tried
you
to
gotta
Fired
land
a
that
little too
thing.
early, yeah. That was a nice concentrated blade there from Nick.
Yep.
Oh,
Oh,
he just
got knocked
interrupted.
out of it.
Yeah.
Totally interrupted me.
Mark was trying to use spatial shift there to switch the two of them and confuse Nick. Didn't work out
Taking a
though.
little phantasmal
It
armor.
would have been great if it had, but
Nick was using phantasmal armor that gave him some interrupt armor and some absorption effect.
there we go. There we
There we
go.
go.
All right, so now Nick's a little bit disoriented. He's kind of walking around. He doesn't.
And disorient
can't
actually
aim.
randomizes your movement keys.
Yes, it does.
And
So it makes it kind of difficult to stick on a target when you've been disoriented.
it's looking
So
pretty
it
good.
looks like Mark is using up his spell surge now. He's able to maybe try to finish him off with a nice combo here.
Nice stun, doing a lot of damage there.
Oh, he just got knocked down. Luckily, that
Oh,
cooldown on
this is
Spectral
pretty
Form
close.
is pretty long, so it doesn't look
There,
like.
done.
Yep,
It's
very
done.
good.
Nice job. You have redeemed yourself.
I think we're lucky that the Esper didn't have his cooldown back up for Spectral Form.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
may have taken me if that were the case, but
So good job, guys. Good job. Good
So
fight.
yeah, just to recap, what I did a little bit differently is I took phase shift there, which when I cast it, it switches positions, it disorients him, makes him he can't move around as well. It also makes me a little immune while I'm casting, so I can kind of interrupt him a little bit. And then I also took Astral Infusion, which is a support ability, which heals me for health, and it also gives me interrupt armor. So I was hoping to avoid some of his interrupts.
Nice, nice. Well, that seemed to have worked out pretty well for you.
Yes, it did.
So what
You
we're
made
gonna
me proud, Mark. You made me proud.
you get to keep your job.
Yeah.
Congratulations. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to have you guys, we're going to swap over to the camera, get out of the game for now. I'm going to have you guys switch over.
Okay.
We're going to actually head over to Stormtalon's lair, the dungeon that we showed off last week, and we're going to continue from where we left off and work our way to the second boss, because the second boss, I got to say, is one of my favorite fights so far in dungeons that I've seen. So,
pretty impressive.
Mark, you go ahead and get set up. While we're doing that, Hugh and I are going to answer some more questions from the stream. So feel free to ask questions on Twitter using the hashtag WSLive. You can do it live in Twitch chat, too, and we're grabbing questions from there. If you're watching us from the WildStar website or from the Facebook page, you can click through to get to the Twitch website, so that way you can interact and chat with us live during the show. We've got a team of moderators here watching, answering questions, grabbing them for the stream. And so I'm kind of delaying our... Let's just get to the questions. Let's ask
do
the
it.
questions. So, Devish10 wants to know, Spellslinger amps. Spellslinger amps. That's his question. No, he wants to know, a lot of MMOs make spec switching into a gold sync, and that amps take a little more effort than your limited action set to reset them. Is it feasible that you are switching your amp set constantly multiple times a day, or is that going to get prohibitively expensive?
So if you were just using one loadout and you were respecking multiple times a day, that is going to get pretty expensive. But we do have a system in place where you're able to have multiple loadouts.
And this is not in beta yet.
This
So
is
nobody's
this is
seen
not
this
in
yet.
beta yet, but it's going in pretty soon. And so by the time you're level 20, you're going to have access to a second loadout. So then you're going to be able to set up a whole different abilities loadout. You're going to be able to set up a whole different amp loadout. So and you can switch between the two of them
For free.
For free. Instantly, as long as you're outside of combat.
Okay, and so you can have multiple amp setups, multiple ability tier setups, limited action set setups, and you can swap between them.
Right.
And there's two that you by 20 you can have two of them, and then there's possibly more that you can get later on.
Cool. So it will cost gold if you want to reset a specific
Yeah,
loadout,
the entire loadout.
but you can have multiple loadouts set up that you can switch between.
And it only costs gold to reset your amps. The rest of your stuff, it doesn't cost.
You can do that on the fly. Cool. Good answer. Good answer. Let's grab one more question before we move on. Agent Vi7 wants to know, does the Spellslinger have some melee stun abilities? Things that can work up close to stun someone who got into melee range, or maybe escape from it, I'm guessing.
So that's actually Gate, which we've been showing off for
Sure.
a while. It's something that dashes you forward 20 meters and it stuns anybody in the path. So as a Spellslinger, one of the basic but satisfying combos that you can do early on is if an NPC comes up close to you, they're telegraphing, you gate right through them, you turn around, swing around, fire off your big shots.
Awesome. Yeah. So especially, I mean, the mobility of the Spellslinger definitely means that you're not screwed if someone gets into melee range.
Yep.
All right.
Very
so
slippery.
let's jump into Stormtalon. Let's switch over, and we're going to introduce the team that we've got running today. So Mark, why don't you walk us through who's playing?
All right, so for our tank, we have a warrior, spec tank, played by one Tim Lang, one of our dungeon designers. Moving on,
Look at that sweet sword. Oh man.
Esper DPS, played by Brett Scheinert. Ooh, look at that little dance.
And he's our dungeons lead.
Yeah, dungeons
Yep.
lead. Then we have Jason Schoonover, or
It's
call him
Schoonover. Scoony. Yeah.
Great beer pong player. He's playing a Stalker DPS. And to round it out, we have Nick, who's joining us back again. Playing
Recently defeated.
Yeah, recently defeated. We're one
One
for
for
one.
one.
You know, we'll have to go again. So he's playing a Spellslinger healer. I'm going to keep playing a Spellslinger DPS.
You want to show us what you look like?
I am playing a Exile human.
I like.
the
Are
name
those
of
dice
Mona.
earrings that you have there? I
Oh,
think
yeah,
those are
let me-
dice
let me
earrings.
zoom in.
Yeah, look at that.
I'm lucky.
Good selection.
Wow, very nice.
I
So
hope Nick heals you.
So we are basically starting from where we left off last week. You're standing literally where the corpse of the first boss normally
Right,
is.
yeah, this is where Bladewind the Invoker was defeated soundly. Well, not very soundly. It was a little rough, but...
So we're going to work through the second part of the dungeon. So you guys can go ahead and get started.
Right.
Go ahead and kill things. Hugh and I are going to answer some more questions while you're killing the trash and working
David-
your way across. What?
What if somebody's tuning in right now and they're like, "What is this?"
Yeah, if you joined in halfway through, thank you, Hugh, for the prompt. If you guys are joining us halfway through, we are doing the Spellslinger live stream for WildStar. I think we're up on the front page of Twitch right now, so I'm sure a ton of people just stumbled in and we're like, what is this game? What is this?
Yeah, what is this?
So we are showing off one of our classes live. We've been doing this every week so far. Every time we've been re-revealing all of our old classes, leading up to the reveal of our new classes. So this week we're focusing on the Spellslinger. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, go to the WildStar website. That's wildstaronline.com, wildstar-online.com. You can go there and check out the Spellslinger, all the info about them, but also the Warrior and the Esper, which we revealed in the past weeks. And we'll have new ones week after week, so we're still going for another couple weeks. And just to reintroduce ourselves, you want to introduce yourself, Hugh?
I'm Hugh Shelton. I'm the class lead.
Mark.
I am Mark Matzenbacher, Merkel.
And I
It's
am...
not Merkel, get it right.
And what do you do here?
I am a designer. I'm a class designer.
Class designer. And I'm David Bass, one of the community managers here. And so we're working our way through one of the dungeons. This is a level 20 dungeon called Stormtalon's Lair. Last week we did the first section of the dungeon, went all the way up through the first boss. So now we're continuing on through the second boss, and we'll talk about that boss when we get to it. I don't want to spoil it.
This is actually one of the first dungeons you'll encounter.
Yes,
in
this is,
WildStar.
and you actually stumble on this as an Exile. This is in Gallerus. You'll find it. So let's grab a question from the stream while you guys are fighting these packs.
Ooh, don't go that way.
I see Talamhable wants to know, do crowd control abilities do damage as well, or are they exclusively for crowd control?
So that's going to depend on the crowd control ability. Some of the abilities that you find in the assault tree, most of their contribution, let's say their ability contribution, is geared towards the damage that they do. And
Okay.
some of it will be geared towards the CC. So things like snares are usually going to do a pretty hefty amount of damage in addition to the snare. Whereas abilities that you find in the utility tree, those are going to be the hard CCs that you find, like Crush and Stun. Those are generally going to be geared more towards the CC, but they'll still do some damage.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a little bit of variety there, depending on which tree we're pulling from.
Yep.
Cool. So one of the things I want to talk about while they're in this dungeon is something we didn't actually get into last week because we didn't really get to it, and that's the optional and randomized objectives part of dungeons. So our dungeons, can you pull up your events, your quest log right now?
Yes,
is
I
that
can.
is that pop-upable?
There
We go. So once you enter a dungeon, you guys can go ahead and keep going.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah. But once you're in a dungeon, when you first join in, that event log actually picks a bunch of random objectives, and there's a nice pool of it to choose from, so it doesn't choose everything every time. And those are completely optional objectives. They don't have to do with specifically like killing things. You know, here you'll see these glowing cages that you can click on. You're supposed to rescue some people from the cages. You might have to collect a bunch of plants, I think is selected this time. And there might be optional areas that you can head to. And like I said, these are completely optional. If you want to go into the dungeon and just run through and kill all the bosses, totally fine. You'll get your loot. You're done. Good to go.
Speaking of extra area.
Oh, look at this. So there's a jump pad we can activate, which will take everyone up to this special area. And so it looks like there's an extra thing. There's a glowy thing in the back. I wonder what that does.
Something we can find back here.
Yeah, so...
This is
so
actually
these
really cool. This is one of our elementals in the game. I think they look amazing.
Yeah, this is one of the
Definitely.
best trash fights that you could find in a dungeon, probably.
We don't do no trash.
And so the optional objectives, if you complete all of them, we actually rank your performance in the dungeon based on time completion, optional objective completion, number of deaths, and so you'll actually get medal rewards like bronze, silver, gold based on how well you performed in that dungeon. And so that can give you extra loot, equivalent to maybe an additional boss fight. So if you complete all these optional objectives, if you complete all the challenges that you're seeing there in time, if you can do it without any wipes, without any, within a certain length of time, you're going to get an extra drop basically, as if you had killed another boss. And so that's a really nice way to. And we're also we're hoping to maybe someday have some leaderboards for that, but I can't promise that now. Oh, Scooney went down.
Yeah.
Man. This
to be
is,
fair, he's a producer and he doesn't have a lot of practice.
Scooney gave me permission to make fun of him, but I will say we did add him in last minute. He hasn't had as much time to prep as everyone else. So here, you guys found this little area up top, and you're activating this. And what's going to happen when we activate this?
So for this dungeon, this little secret area, it unlocks what we call a hollow crypt, which is essentially our graveyard. So what this allows us to do, if we wipe, which hopefully we won't, we can res here rather than at the start of the dungeon, so we can kind of get back into the action faster.
And so that's something you normally would not have seen if you were just running straight through the
Yeah,
dungeon.
if you're just blazing through, you're not going to get that.
So one thing I really want to talk about, since we're here, this is Spellslinger Week, we're talking about the Spellslinger. I want to talk about Spellslinger here.
Nice land on that jump pad there.
We decided to show off Merkel playing as Merkel.
Merkel.
Merkel, darn you.
Merkel.
Steve Merkel is here.
Yeah. Anyway, we're showing him off as a DPS, but like we said before, Nick is playing a healer, and
Yes, it is right over here.
Mark's going to try to keep him in his view as he's doing these heals.
Yeah, I see him
Most of the
charging out there.
Spellslinger heals are these free-form target line shot type things. They're going to be familiar to you if you've been playing a DPS on a Spellslinger because it's got
you
kind of
just
the same
walked right
telegraph
into
shit.
it, man.
I thought, I just used my gate to do something cool, and I forgot that it was not cool.
Sorry, continue, Hugh.
Besides these like straightforward line heals and whatnot, the Spellslinger also has abilities called Sustain. This is a pretty short AoE heal that's going to do a pretty good burst of healing, and it's also a charge and release. So you have two different versions of it. You have the small heal or the big heal. You can choose that as you'd like.
So do we know yet when it gets to more end game content like raids, like dungeons, adventures, what class tends to be more of like a tank heal as opposed to a party heal?
So it's going to kind of depend on your tank healer combo,
Okay.
really, because some healers like the Esper might suit the Stalker tanks really well because they have those target heals, and the Stalker's going to be moving around a lot. So as a Spellslinger, it might be a little bit more difficult to keep them in your sights to
Sure.
heal them up. So, but a Spellslinger can be really effective to heal a main tank warrior or an engineer, and if you're skilled, you can also main heal a Stalker. But that's because you're able to basically line up those shots, say, hey, tank, stay in front of the boss. Don't try to dodge those telegraphs. I'm going to heal you. I'm going to keep you alive. And since you have that spell surge, you're able to do a ton of burst healing really quickly. So if somebody takes a significant amount of damage, you can get them back up pretty healthy quickly.
Cool. Can we get some more questions up on the screen here? I think we just addressed that one actually.
Why don't I mention a few of the other Spellslinger
Yeah,
heal
go for it.
abilities? So I'm pretty sure that Nick is using Dual Fire here. This is an ability that's going to be doing both damage to the enemy, and it's also going to be healing allies that are nearby that enemy. And it's also buffing and debuffing them at the same time. So you get that little bit of dual damage / healing ability. Besides that, he's using Distortion, which is going to put an absorption effect on up to 3 allies.
Ooh, that was an Esper heal.
That was a
there.
sweet
would be
Esper
Brett's-
heal right
Brett's
there.
going a little hybrid action.
And so he's able to put an absorption effect on his allies, which is really useful.
Awesome. So I think that's it for our trash. We're going to head into this room right here.
Yes, what do we got over
Let's
here?
go silent for a sec.
Watch yourself. That massive elemental guards the next chamber. You'll have to defeat it if you want to continue on.
So this is our second boss of Stormtalon, also known as Ethros, or Athros, depending on how you pronounce that AE thing. So we are gonna walk everyone through this fight as you guys fight it.
Right.
I'm gonna let you, Hugh, take the lead on this fight, and we'll work our way through it. And
right.
so I know that yesterday when we practiced this, there were a couple wipes. So we'll
Like
see
I
how
said,
this goes.
I mean, Scooney, he's just dragged. He's too heavy, man. We got to carry him.
All right, so here we go. They're gonna pull the boss.
Yep. So we got our warrior tank getting in there. He's trying to keep that aggro on Athros. We do have an aggro system in WildStar, so as a DPS, you're going to want to be careful not to do too much damage too early.
Oh, get out
Whoa,
of
that's a big telegraph.
Mark just dodged that telegraph. That's a pretty
Last
devastating telegraph. If you stand there, you could be taken from full life
so-
to big dead.
And so the beginning of this fight obviously is just attack and stay. Oh well, something's about to happen.
Yep. So Athros just dispersed. He created 3 adds, and now as the DPS and anybody that has interrupts here, they're not going to want to use up their CCs on these creatures because they're going to want to save it for a little bit later in this fight.
Do we want to explain real quick about interrupt armor because that's going to come into play in a couple seconds?
Sure. Interrupt armor is one of the features that we have. It's basically a way that you can shield
Watch
yourself
the
from
tornadoes.
CC effects. A lot of our creatures use it, especially in dungeons. And this specific Athros, if Mark is able to select him, if Mark's able to select him, you
Yeah.
can see in the top up there, there's a little number 2. That means Athros has 2 interrupt armor. It's going to take 2 CCs to get through that
Yeah.
interrupt armor before he's actually able to be stunned or knocked down or anything.
There we go.
There you go.
So they worked as a team. They managed to interrupt him, and now he's vulnerable. His health bar is purple. He's taking more damage as long as he's vulnerable.
And if they had not interrupted that cast, he would have gotten that cast off and maybe wiped the group.
Yes, he would have been a
Yes,
pretty
that would've been a
devastating
wipe.
AoE if
Yeah.
they had not interrupted that.
Only the heaviest of classes may have had a chance. To
And we're
survive
still
that.
tuning all that stuff, so as we go through beta, the damage might not be quite where we want it to be.
Right.
Ooh, get out of the way for that.
But, and they managed to get out of the way. Again, everybody's doing pretty good. In warm-ups, they had a few deaths, but right now they're looking pretty solid.
Yes,
And so
we are.
I think the interesting thing about that part of the fight specifically is that our dungeons we want to require a lot more coordination between
Yes.
people. We want communication to be really important, especially because you can choose to see other players' telegraphs. We want to make sure that everyone's communicating to each other what they're fighting, what they're about to do, especially like at that Ethos part, everyone needs to time their crowd control at the same
see,
exact time.
I just noobed it up and totally used my interrupt right there.
And
You
when
wasted your interrupt. So do you think the group's gonna have enough then?
I
I
don't
think it
know.
would be good, but I got a little trick up my sleeve here.
Okay.
Watch this.
What's
little
gonna
action.
happen?
So instead of having to run through this
Oh.
car wash, he's actually used Void Slip to pretty much evade all of those telegraphs along the way and get up there first.
And now I got to rely on my buddies.
Now you're the
to
first one
interrupt.
up there, but you kind of got to wait for everybody else to
at least
show
he's
up.
able to get some deeps on the
So
target.
you don't have your crowd control
He
there,
has
but
no
does
crowd
everyone else
control
have
right
enough
now.
to interrupt
Looks-
him? Yes, they
looks
do.
like they do.
Okay.
No good.
That's
There
a
we
good
go,
group.
buddy. Way to carry me that time.
Nice job, guys. Nice job.
It all comes around.
I'm actually gonna. Oh, so it looks like they're burning down the boss pretty fast now.
Yes,
So
we are.
it looks like you guys might be okay this time. Last time did not go so well, so I'm actually pretty impressed with your performance
We
today.
gotta redeem ourselves from
Yeah.
last week's
And
performance.
Scooney
as well.
didn't die. I hope he can hear me right now. Scooney did not die.
Sierra
and
Beats
so
though, almost going down.
Oh.
They're about to. Oh, took some damage.
ton of damage coming out. Beeps has no shields, but it looks like it's
pretty
not
good.
going to matter.
This looks pretty.
There we go.
Ooh, what's
Oh, and a
up?
survey popped up. We
Yeah.
can fill out how much fun we just had.
take that.
Look at that sweet loot that just
Yeah,
dropped.
fine.
Nice job, everybody. Nice
Fine.
job.
Yeah. And any
Okay.
comments? No.
No comments? Just
I'm-
perfect all
I'm
around.
silent.
So it looks like stuff dropped. You get some sweet
What we
shoulder
got here? What we
pads.
got?
Some light shoulder pads. Oh, no, some medium shoulder pads.
Nah, I think my gear's better than this. Oh, this is also.
I don't think you can
medium
equip it
armor.
anyway. Yeah.
Well, I could have maybe needed just to be a jerk, but I upgraded it up.
Awesome. So nice job, guys. Nice job in the dungeon. That went pretty smoothly. I think we're gonna hold off on the third boss and the Storm Talon fight itself until a later time.
Yes.
But let's grab some more questions off the stream. Let's hop over and we'll answer some more questions. If anyone has questions about the dungeon, about the Spellslinger specifically, class balance, anything they want to talk about, feel free to ask that stuff in chat. We're still taking questions. I'm gonna grab this one from Big Jason. Is that what that says? Yeah. So
That's a big name for Jason.
let's swap over to full camera view so you can see our shining faces. Oh, look at that. So yeah, we're just gonna go through some questions and see rapid fire style. See what
yeah,
else we
let's
can
do
get
it.
into. So Big Jason Blades wants to know, Blade X, when you heal a damaged ally, can you only heal their health, or can you also heal up their shield?
So that's going to depend on the type of heal that you have.
Okay.
So the Spellslinger specializes in standard health healing, whereas other healers might have some shield healing capabilities.
Might those be some healers we haven't announced yet?
That might be a healer that we have not
Interesting.
announced.
Might be
Interesting.
Some redacted action.
So we might have to revisit that at a later time. Cool. Let's see. Oh, good question. Since we just did this, Lewis wants to know, or
I think this is coming from Twitter.
this is
too,
from
right?
Twitter. Yeah, X or System. Man, you guys gotta have pronounceable usernames. Like, I love you guys and I love giving shout outs, but come on, help me out here. So XOR System wants to know, can you explain a little bit more about Void Slip? Is it actually a phased instance, or how does that actually work?
Yeah, it is actually a phase instance. So
Well, it's not
when
you don't load into a new instance, but
Right.
it is a phase. It's what we call
it's
as a phase.
seamless, and you
Yeah.
go into there and you can't see anybody else that's outside of there, and other people that go into the void will also see you. So there can be situations in PvP where you see an enemy Spellslinger go into the void at low health. You could go in right after them to try to finish them
And
off.
kill them inside the
Which
void.
is a pretty righteous kill, because they think they've gotten away, and then you chase in, and then you just show them what's what.
And
they're dead.
everybody outside the void just sees this body come from nowhere.
So can you? We don't actually have a specific question about. Oh, actually, that's the question I was just going to ask. Gorilla Wizard wants to know. So can you go in the void and then stand there for a while? Is there anything in there besides yourself?
So at first,
Can you
you're
have a
only going to be
party?
able to stand for a few seconds using our Void Slip ability. There's also an amp that makes you cast Void Slip for free, but
Oh,
you
nice.
can tier it up so that you go up to maybe 7-ish seconds. This is something that we're going to tweak, because 7 seconds in a different phase is actually a pretty long time,
Yeah.
I would say. So, but right now, it's about 7 seconds that you can be in there. You can heal yourself, you can cast any of your abilities, whatever you want, as long as you're in there.
So we're not looking at hey, Sunday night I'm going to have a void party. We're just all
No.
going to slip into the void and hang out there for a couple hours.
It's a little bit too dangerous for them to stay in there for too long. One thing that's actually really cool about the ability as well is that you can reactivate it to come out early. So you can kind of bait out enemies' powerful moves by waiting for them to use it, and then go into avoid the big damage, and then come back out immediately and be ready to just keep going.
That sounds like almost a weird version of stealth, where you can't see what you're doing necessarily,
Right.
but if you're really good at it, you can pop into the void, pop
Yeah.
out somewhere else, and be right behind the other guy.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's got a ton of uses other than just to kind of escape.
This is a good question. Fishin' Guy 918 wants to know: Are there or will there be abilities that can do direct damage instead of hitting the shield that goes straight through the shield or
Yeah.
deplete the shield?
Yeah, on some of the classes, they have abilities that penetrate shields. There's actually some abilities that disable shields altogether so that all the damage that target takes is going to go straight to their health.
Yep.
Cool. And there's also a stat called strike through, right? That goes.
Strike through is actually to avoid deflect chance. Deflect chance is one of our
that's
other
right.
stats that you have, which it's basically a way to make. The reason why we have stats like strike through and deflect in the game is because we're making an RPG and we have a lot of gear that we want you to go out and gear up for. And so both of those are going to be the way that you overcome bosses, overcome other players, that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
I think we do have a stat that is going to be actually shield pierce, though.
We do have a shield pierce stat that you're able to get solely through the AMP system currently. We'll see about maybe rolling it out through other places, but right now it's pretty much just through the AMP system.
Cool. Altraz110 asks, does the something does the Spellslinger's innate interrupt casting, or can you actually charge an ability up and then hit innate while you're casting it?
So this is something that we've been tweaking as we've been moving forward.
We actually had a conversation about this earlier this week, I think.
Yeah, in the last round of beta, it was actually set up so that you couldn't cast it while you're already casting another ability. But we've changed that so that you're able to cast it while casting other abilities, and then it has a little bit of a cooldown after it wears off. So we want it to be really smooth. We want it to be it shouldn't impede your gameplay, your regular rotation.
I think the way you guys explained it to me, you can't do it during a channeled ability that's doing constant damage, right?
You can turn it on during
But it
that
won't
time.
affect
It
that
won't
ability.
affect it
That
until.
bonus.
But if you're doing something that charges up like charge shot or true shot, it will affect that because the cast happens at the end.
Right.
You have to do it before you engage the ability currently.
Gotcha. Okay. So, is this their actual username, or are you guys okay? So, someone from Twitter whose username is redacted. I don't know if that's because it was inappropriate or because it's a spoiler, but whatever. Wants to know: are all of the skills the Spellslinger uses AOE, or do some of them only hit the first target in the
So
line?
that ability assassinate. Sorry about that, internet. That ability assassinate that
Oh,
Mark was
gosh.
using earlier is actually a skill shot that only hits one target. So
Okay.
that's something that you have to thread the needle if you want to finish people off.
And that's clearly explained in all the tooltips of how many targets you're going to be hitting with it.
And
Cool.
there's other abilities throughout the game that only hit one target.
Awesome. And so Milt3K wants to know, with crowd control, can you stun lock a pile of enemies when you've got a party with tons of crowd control?
So I think that's interesting. So we do have the breakout gameplay, so you are able to kind of get out of a lot of the CCs early. Some of the harder ones, we are implementing diminishing returns so that, if you got 4 people stunning you, eventually just going to do nothing. That being said, a skilled group who times their abilities and their CC well, they can do a lot of damage, but that's pretty high end on the team coordination scale.
Yeah,
And just to touch on this, the diminishing returns is only in PvP.
Right.
It's not in PvE. So yeah, you can keep bosses, enemies down, but they usually have interrupt armor, so it's not going to be that feasible. And also your cooldowns on these abilities are pretty long. And then the other thing is, I saw some people talking about like how do diminishing returns work in WildStar. And the way that it works in WildStar is basically things like stuns and knockdowns are categorized into the same group. And so if I hit you with a stun that lasts for 4 seconds. The first time I hit you with that, it's going to last a full 4 seconds. But if somebody else hits you with another stun in those within 15 seconds, it's going to be reduced. So it's only going to last for 3 seconds.
Right.
Next time 2, next time 1, and then
nothing.
nothing will affect you at all.
Cool. So we just put diminishing returns into beta. I think
Right.
this is the first time that we're testing it out, and so that's obviously going to get tweaked as we keep playing with it.
Yeah, we'll tweak things like the timer, the cooldown, how many CCs before it goes to nothing, all those.
But I think with the breakout gameplay, you guys made a good point where some of our crowd control, like a knockdown, for example, you can dash right out of that
As long as you
have a dash
save
token.
your dash token.
Yeah, and so some of that crowd control, there's never a point where you're just sitting there like, well, I'm just going to sit here and wait.
Yeah, like a tether, you're still able to move around. You're just stuck in that area. If you're subdued, you lose your weapon, but you're able to go and pick it up. There's always some sort of gameplay associated with it.
Cool. Another question from Twitter, David Mitunin. I'm sorry, you're definitely foreign, and I pronounced your name terribly. But does a Spellslinger, amongst the other classes, have some kind of deadly combo they can fire off by chaining all their abilities together?
So there are certain abilities that you have on your bar that's going to increase the damage that you take from magic sources or from physical sources, and you're able to use those together. There's things like stunning an NPC when they're in the middle of a telegraph, and now they're more vulnerable. So you can use
That's
your
the
abilities,
moment of opportunity.
The moment of
Right.
opportunity. So then you can do higher damage on them. There's certain abilities that you can only use after landing a critical hit, so you have to do a certain order of operations to fire those off. off. And then we do give boosts through the ability tiering system and through the amp system, where certain abilities get bonuses on top of what they would normally do based on if the target's ignited, for example. That sort of a thing.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Cool. So Trollologic on Twitter wants to know, can Spellslingers avoid fall damage from any fight by using their Void Slip or Gate abilities? And if so, does every class have something like that?
You can with Gate. I'm not sure if you do it with Void Slip.
Void Slip will not save.
Right. You are still falling. You're just in an alternate dimension. Void Slip, you can. You have to kind of time it pretty well.
Gate, you mean?
Or sorry, Gate. With other classes, Warrior can do it with Leap if you time it well. But it's one of those things that, if you use it still when you're 30 meters up in the air and you leap, you're still going to be falling the rest of that 30 meters.
So it's something you're going to have to time well, and a lot of classes do have ways of dealing with fall damage.
And I know people want to ask, because we saw it in one of the videos, can you spatial shift an enemy off a cliff?
I wish that you could. Right now you can't. We'll keep trying to make it happen.
Yeah, we want to kind of avoid the keyboard breaking aspect of people. So.
You're falling to your death, and then suddenly you're not, and the enemy is. It would be really fun for the person who's using it.
Yeah, I mean, the guy doing it would have a big smile.
Already,
not really any breakout gameplay
Already,
there.
spatial shift is a lot of fun for the person doing it because of the disorient that happens after the spatial shift.
True.
Generally, so if you spatial shift somebody up on a platform, they'll be disoriented, and it's really easy for them just to walk in the wrong direction and fall off.
Yeah.
They kind of look like the town drunkard when they're kind of stumbling around.
I can't read this question right now, but does the Hansu from Twitter wants to know, does the Spellslinger or other classes have group buffs that are not just connected to healing or regeneration?
Yeah, we have a lot of our buffs, or should I say, we don't really have any buffs that are just buffs. There's very few of those. For the most part, we always tie buffs and debuffs to abilities that are doing damage. Or
Why is that?
Because we have the action set where you're only able to slot 8 class abilities on your bar at a time out of the total of 30 that you have to choose from. We didn't want you to have certain things on your bar that are just going to be sitting on cooldown the whole time. So we always want some sort of active element. Either it's something that's very impactful, or it's something that you can use more frequently.
Yeah. Cool. So I think we got time for maybe one more question. Let me see if we can see a really good one. Do we see Sorry, there's some very small font here that I'm having trouble reading.
For those of you who don't know, we do have a monitor with questions on it. We're not just staring off into the distance.
I'm staring at the ground. There's a dude there who's writing stuff on a whiteboard.
Yeah, he's just laying there in front of us.
He's just yelling at us and we can't hear.
There's actually a Chua down there that is helping us.
How about the orange energy cell? Oh, that's a good question. The third one down there.
So I think they're actually talking about Void Slip.
This one down the bottom. This is actually, they're talking about absorption.
Yes.
So let's put that one up on the stream. Sorry. I'm switching around because I thought this was a really cool question. But Nixeris 5M, that's how long ago they tweeted at us, yes. Nixeris wants to know, what was that orange energy cell that you were seeing next to the shield on the Spellslinger's bar?
So that's an absorption effect. That's going to soak up damage before you take damage to your shields or to your health.
And where are you getting that from?
That is going to come from a couple different abilities. On the Spellslinger, they have Distortion, which is a line skill shot, which will apply it to allies and themselves. And then you also have Astral Infusion, which will apply an absorption effect to you.
Esper's also the Phantasmal Armor, one of the abilities we showed off last week, where they kind of get the golden suit of armor that puts on Absorption Shield as well.
That's
cool.
something that we're tweaking. We're figuring out where we want to stick to the absorption effect because it's a really powerful effect.
Awesome. Well, I think that's going to about do it for us for this episode. As always, I hear the collective sigh from the audience.
The time goes by too fast.
It does. It moves way faster than we always expect. But
that time we kind of killed the boss a little too fast.
Yeah, I was expecting to see some trouble like last time, but it looks like you guys actually practiced this morning.
We were kind of padding the time in case we wiped, so we can kind of go back in and this time.
But no, this time it's just perfectly straightforward, like no problem at all. So thank you guys so much for watching. Before we go, just a couple things I want to remind you in case you tuned in late. First of all, most importantly, the winter beta survey. We sent this out by email, but if you didn't get it, that's okay. It's down in the show notes down below this if you're watching on the Twitch chat. It is surveymonkey.com/s/WS winter beta. You can click on that link, fill out the survey, even if you've signed up for beta already, or even if you haven't signed up for beta. Fill out that survey. The information we're getting in there is extremely valuable to us, and so everyone who fills out that survey, we're kind of prioritizing those people for invites because it shows that they're still interested in the beta if they signed up 3 years ago, 2 years ago, or whatever. So go fill out that survey if you haven't already. If you have filled it out, please don't fill it out again. You're just making me work extra to get your extra info out of there. So do that. Sign up for beta if you haven't signed up for beta on our website. It'll make you now create an NCSoft account, which is required in order to play our game. So that'll get you one step forward just by making sure you have an NCSoft account. If you did sign up early and you didn't create an NCSoft account, that's okay. You don't have to sign up for beta again. I know there was some mixed messaging there, but you don't have to sign up again for beta. You're still in the queue, and when you get an invite, it'll provide instructions for how to create that account. So you're fine. Let's see. Follow us on Twitch. If you haven't already, that's down here. I think we figured it out. My camera's all messed up, but it's down here somewhere. Nope, it's over there. It's over. I don't know where you're telling me to point. There's a button below that says follow. If you click that button, you will follow us on Twitch chat. Yeah, I'm pointing at like Facebook things. If you follow us on the Twitch chat, you'll get an email immediately whenever we start streaming. I mean, we'll obviously give you a heads up when these episodes are happening. But if you just want an email that says like, "Hey, they're streaming right now. Go over there." That's the best way to do that. In addition, give us more feedback on the show. I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but there was a really great Reddit thread going on last week right after the show that had some amazing feedback in it. And a lot of the feedback we saw in that thread was basically exactly the same feedback we had for ourselves. And so it was really, really great, hugely constructive. So thank you guys. Keep giving us that feedback, whether it's on Reddit, Twitter, Facebook. If you want to email us, you want to throw anything anywhere you want, like send us that feedback. We're always trying to improve this show. We're always adding stuff. It's a live show, so things go wrong, things kind of go crazy at the last second, but we really like adjusting to these things and changing stuff up every week.
I think I'm going to try to get tongue-tied at least once every single episode, so it can kind of be my theme. Just at one point during the show.
I do want to point out, I want to give myself a pat on the back for not cursing at all.
No, you did a great job.
I know you guys were very aware
like
of
30
that.
seconds here.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. No, I'm good now. I've got a list. I'm solid. Last thing I want to call out. Team Pappy versus Team Frost.
Oh, yeah.
This is, I mean, I know the community is very excited about this.
I was excited about it at first, too.
But the studio is now getting super into this, too. I mean, like, people are making posters for it, which we'll see at some point. People are, like, talking trash at each other about Chad and Frost without even being in the room. And I know that they both have just been, they'll walk by and they'll be like, Frost is like, Pappy, I'm going to trash you. And Pappy's like, dude, you're going to get so owned. It's getting intense.
I'm really interested to see this fight just because both of them have said that they would come train with the class team. They've said they'd schedule it. They said they would make it happen. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know if they're really that dedicated to winning this duel.
We just gotta make sure they don't let the game look bad by how bad they're playing.
So Frost was talking all about how he had set up a session with you guys and he was already training. So he was just making that up.
No, but he has been training with producers. I hear that the producers are
that
the
is
best.
Not really a good gauge, as we saw by Scooney. That is not necessarily the best. That is not the big leagues.
So?
Well, so that fight is going to be coming up in the future, I promise. Not yet. We don't have a date for it yet. We'll let you know when that's happening. But in the meantime, you can choose your allegiance. Use hashtag Team Pappy or hashtag Team Frost. We're kind of tracking which side's getting more love. I don't like that the subreddit is Team Pappy.
It's not anymore, actually. It was for a little while, but they've changed it.
Okay. That's good, guys. That's good. I just, side note, I know he's not watching right now, but Chad's not very good at this game. I just want to make sure everyone's aware of this.
So, yeah, you're saying that we're pretty sure that Frost is going to win?
We're pretty confident Frost is going to win, which is why we're trying to get Chad to practice a little bit, because we don't want it to be over in 2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
of course. Chad might have something up his sleeve.
He could. Sure. All right, and with that, that about wraps it up for today's episode. I do want to mention that next week we will still have a class drop. I believe it's the last of our announced classes. So we will be showing off the Stalker. We're going to have the class drop. We'll have the new dev speak. We'll still do the Reddit AMA. However, all of that stuff is going to kind of be shifted around because next week is Thanksgiving. A lot of us are not going to be here for the holiday, and so we'll be doing the class drop as scheduled and the AMA. And that stuff will actually be happening on Tuesday next week instead of Wednesday. And then we're also not going to have a live stream next week, unfortunately. Most of us are going home for the holidays, and so we could just stream an empty room if you guys wanted, but I don't think that's really that appealing.
They probably would actually say, please.
They probably would say that if we offered it.
We're not going to stream it.
But we're not doing that. So we're going to take the week off. The Stalker stream will come back at a later date. It won't be the week after because I think everyone will be a little excited about some other stuff.
That's pretty exciting to say that the next live stream we're going to do
could be
about
something brand new
Yeah,
that I'm
something
sure no one has ever heard of. No one has ever known about the.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has discovered any of the
nobody has any
UIs
clue
in the
what we're about
game.
to
It's
reveal.
clearly the best
Nobody,
secret of
we've
all.
So-
nobody at Carbine has ever said their names.
Nope, there've
or,
been
like,
no
shown
slips
the
whatsoever,
character
no
selects,
leaks.
or yeah, no.
So it's just gonna blow everyone's mind.
yeah, yeah.
So,
You do not
but
know
that'll
what's
be in
about to
2
happen.
weeks. Will be our next live stream. We will not be back next week for a live stream, but we will still have updates on the website. So come back next week. Check out the Stalker. Ask your questions during the Reddit AMA. It's going to be awesome. And then we'll be back in 2 weeks with. I'm not even going to say who's going to be on it because I might spoil some stuff. But we'll be back in 2 weeks. So thank you guys for joining us. And we'll have the archive up shortly. If you missed any parts of the show, you'll be able to watch this live. You'll be able to watch it on Twitch, and we'll have it up on YouTube next week. So thank you guys, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Big shout out to Aiden.